What's up? Ghost Fictions is here, and we're back again. This is the second part of a story where Issei became a villain and had the blacklight virus. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more informations. Now, let's get into part 2. Issei was present in the meeting. It was a decent meeting room with several chairs and a screening room that would display their next goals. He knew that this would be important for the formation of the BLACKWATCH, that would be the one that will destroy the supernatural that has abused and tormented humans for so long. This is it. The beginning of something truly dangerous. Once this organization is formed, there is no turning back. Issei spoke with a deep thought. He knew that what he is going to do now, there is no forgiveness or turning back once he starts performing experimentations. His life was in ruins, he was being hunted down by the corrupt factions, but not anymore once he starts his work with the BLACKWATCH. The supernatural will start to fall one by one, and there won't be any mercy. I wonder what is on your mind, best buddy. Issei spoke with curiosity, wondering what Drake is doing with his protector for the time being. He knew that the identity of the person who was keeping it and the person would reveal himself today. Soon enough, a man came inside and spoke. Mr. Mercer. The board directors are here. Issei smirked upon this, as the doors soon revealed some of the hotshots or top people in the American military. However, there were a few people present. Amongst them there was also someone who was an old friend of Issei. Opening start. Issei looked down, wearing his hoodie. His eyes witnessed the endless hell as he jumped into it. A series of images showing the blacklight virus as he holds his head in pain. Before he gets up and walks forward. Appearances of his friends and family are shown. Valerie is looking down in sadness as she turns around and scowls to see Azazel. He forwards his hand as Valerie turns it away. Azazel gets angry, but Issei soon appears and grins as Azazel backs away with fear. Valerie turns around and smiled as she embraces him. She is joined by Athena, Artemis and a silver-haired woman as he glares at Azazel. He backs away as he clenches his fists. Issei calms down his girls before he commands Azazel to leave, who does so out of fear. The scene changes to Issei, in disguise, as he watches over the factions like a predator. He smirks seeing Serziches and the other leaders dealing with several figures. He soon leaps in as he starts charging at the leaders and confronts them. Issei was now in his laboratory as Clara hovers beside him. He is joined by Team Slashdog and his adoptive parents as he researches a cure. He glances towards a purple-haired girl as he vows to help her recover. Hypnos and Morpheus both assist him as Aramid and Diane Seat help him find a cure. The scene changes to Artemis and Athena, who are surrounded by the Greek gods. Athena throws her emblem as she and Artemis leave Olympus along with their followers. Zeus can be seen clenching his fists in anger as he vows to defeat Issei. Issei is watching his anger with a smile on his face as he is enjoying seeing the despair. Issei is seen beside his friends as they all smile at each other before Issei looks in the camera. His eyes start to glow in red as he looks down on several figures belonging to the Haidu clan. They all have looks of anger as the group leaps upon them, clashing against them to wipe them out for good. The final scene shows Issei looking at his lab as he walks away from it. The lights of the lab goes off as Issei exits from the lab with a smile on his face. Opening end. Welcome everyone, I am glad you could take time off your busy schedules to attend the meeting. Issei spoke with a warm tone as the people took their seats beside Issei. They all were acquaintances of Issei and were at high positions in the US military. The first was Peter Randall, the president of the weapons manufacturing and general in the United States Army. He was described to be a white short hair with blue eyes. He wore a standard military outfit which comprised of black military shirt and pants with a military vest. The second was a woman who had neck-length hair. Her hair was blonde and she had green eyes. She wore a formal clothing which comprised of a white shirt and black dress. She also wore leggings and heels. This was Elena Pierce, Deputy Director of Science and Technology in the Directorate of Science and Technology of the CIA in America. She is also an excellent spy and has been tasked with infiltrating many nations and gaining intel from the locations. The third was a person with brown hair with a crew cut. He had gray eyes and like Peter had worn a military outfit which comprised of something similar clothing, except his was light brown shirt with dark brown pants. This was Robert Cross, a captain in the US military and the Executive Assistant Director, ED, of Intelligence, of the FBI Directorate of Intelligence. The fourth person was a strong, imposing man standing with a confident posture. He is bald with a stern expression, wearing a dark rugged leather jacket with red accents, black pants, and black boots. This was James Heller, a high-ranking general in the US military. He is also an excellent combatant and one of Issei's closest allies in the military. And like Issei, he also has a beef with the supernatural and held a grudge against them. The The fifth and final person was none other than Tobio Icus. He was a man with short dark hair. He is wearing a long black coat over a form-fitting outfit that includes a high-collared shirt, utility belt, and reinforced pants with knee pads. He was the wielder of the Longinus Canis Lycaean. "We can make time for our old friend," James spoke, as he continued with a serious tone. "So you have really decided to create an organization against them, huh?" "Indeed I have, James. Honestly, these supernatural haven't learned it all. They still look down upon humanity, and they will do anything in their power to keep themselves hidden and do whatever they want. For them, humanity is nothing but a bunch of playthings, toys that they can play with and discard." Issei could sense the anger in the expressions of all the people present, including Tobio, as he remembered on how him and his team, while being agents of Grigori, were still looked down by many of the fallen angels. Both James and Tobio were clenching their fists in anger. He had his eyes open during his very first encounter with Issei, who was abused for not having a sacred gear. What's worse was that his younger brother Dai tried to make moves on his love interest and fiancé Suzaku Himejima, which Issei made him see. This made the boy really angry. Tobio violently confronted the boy and almost beat Dai to death, with Suzaku and Issei only watching apathetically. Unlike Akeno, Suzaku didn't like Dai at all and actually started to hate him after he tried to flirt and seduce her with his pheromones, something that Issei snapped her out of. However, Tobio's actions were only met with hateful and angered expression from not only those that loved Dai, but also the leaders who had suspended the entire Slashdog team, much to the couple's shock. Tobio tried to justify his actions, but was stopped by Issei, who shook his head and explained to the duo that it was pointless to do anything. He was condemned and deemed as a disgrace ever since. His crime, he only defended his lover from making a huge mistake. Shemhazai and Azazel punished him the worst by sending him on death missions. And if it wasn't for Issei, Slashdog team would have been in a much worse state, and he will be eternally grateful to Issei for helping him. "Yeah, that cadre Azazel wanted me to locate you, still hates me for what I did to bastard Dai. I heard that you killed the cadre Barakiel on your own accord." Issei nodded as he spoke. "Yes, I did. I even was able to absorb his powers for my own purposes, but that is a story for another day." Elena then spoke. Her reasoning for joining the BLACKWATCH was to protect the humans from being used by the supernatural, especially the devils and angels, for their own purposes. "I see, then we have an idea on what BLACKWATCH is going to do, right? Our goal is to combat the supernatural infestations that are present in our world. They have used our people for their own purposes." Elena's words were agreed by the people present, as Robert spoke with a serious tone. "Indeed, and most of our own kind failed to see the supernatural's real face. Many of the people still worship some of these gods, thinking that they are good people. But we all have seen what the supernatural really is, we all have seen their real faces, breaking their mask of goodwill." Robert spoke, remembering on how some angels had tried to capture his wife for having a sacred gear. But with his quick thinking and military training, he was able to drive them away before things could get worse. "How will we convince the world that the supernatural has been tormenting them for so long? Many are still blinded by their faith." Peter spoke with annoyance, remembering on how many people still follow the supernatural blindly, the worst being the Hindu pantheon, who, although didn't show any signs of being evil, still can't be trusted, since there is a chance they may be like the other gods. "We cannot, Peter, not without proof." James spoke with sadness. He remembered his wife and daughter being killed by a coalition of fallen angels and devils when they tried to kill him too. Issei, who was passing by, saved his life. He tried to save his wife and daughter, but nothing could happen. They tragically passed away, devastating the man. Ever since that day, Heller vowed vengeance against those that would harm the humans. He hated the supernatural, knowing no one even would acknowledge him and his suffering. They only care about themselves and will use anyone to further their own goals and agendas. So what should we do? How would we deal with beings that can easily wipe us out like nothing? The only one that can fight against them is Issei, and he cannot fight against everyone, not alone at least. Elena spoke with concern. She remembered on how her parents, while she and them were on a trip to Kyoto, as their bad luck was that they ran into a Kuchisakana who brutally had killed her parents, traumatizing and haunting the girl for a long time. She was lucky that she survived that fateful day. She tried to complain to the police, but they never found the culprit. Worse, she never knew it was a Kuchisakana until she had researched on them, and Issei had shown the existence of the supernatural. He promised that he would track her, and eventually he did, cornering her into a different room. Elena was given the choice of avenging her parents, as the Yaokai could only curse the two for catching up to her. Elena killed the malevolent spirit, as Issei took full responsibility for what had happened. She remembered on how Yasaka, the queen of Yaokai, had tried to punish him, but Issei managed to escape, and Dai was forced to save him to keep his good charade. She saw on how corrupt and twisted the supernatural was that day, and she decided to repay Issei, who didn't expect much from her, since he didn't do this for himself. When Issei called to the BLACKWATCH Corporation, she agreed to join him. It was the least she could do for him. Indeed, even with the entire US Army, someone like Shiva or Indra can easily wipe not only us but also our entire country. We cannot endanger innocent civilians, and we know that the supernatural, including those that are civilians, will attack innocent humans for their own pleasure. James spoke with fear, however there was disdain dripping from his tone. He hated those that are affiliated with the factions and what they are doing to innocent humans. I have a plan. Everyone looked at Issei, who had spoke after remaining silent for a while. He then spoke. The reason why I created BLACKWATCH was for one purpose, to fight against the supernatural. To show them that we are not their playthings anymore. They don't have any right or control over our lives. Not anymore. We need to show them that they are not our overlords or our superiors. Just because they are gods, they don't have any right to control our lives for their own pleasure and enjoyment. We are going to show them that humans can also beat gods if they have the right tools and powers. Issei explained his purpose of creating BLACKWATCH, as the people present all agreed to this. They needed to create their own faction that would oppose the supernatural world to create their own place in this world. You all have been invited to be a part of this organization because of your skills, capabilities and your own experiences with the supernatural. I need your expertise and help to make BLACKWATCH into a formidable organization. The people present all agreed to this. They all had terrible experiences with the supernatural, with some outright losing their loved ones to these bastards. They will make them pay for treating humanity in such a manner, no matter what happens. We don't mind joining BLACKWATCH, but there are many things we need to consider. James Heller had spoken, as he continued. What are we going to do? And how will we get the support and funding for the organization? I have a plan for that as well. Issei starts up the presentation and spoke. For the first part, we will be an investigation body to the public. We will try and pretend that we are investigating mysterious disappearances that will be related to the supernatural. But in reality, we will be a research organization that would try and find weaknesses of the supernatural, finding ways that can destroy even the strongest of gods for good. Issei spoke, to which they all seemed to nod in understanding, but this causes another problem. How will they get the staff needed for this organization? Issei sensed this in his group and spoke. As for the staff, we will need to get the top researchers and those that have the desire to protect humanity. I believe we may have some candidates that can help us in that regard, right? James and Elena nodded, remembering that their organization could pull some strings to get people to their organization. And the funding? Tobio asked, to which Issei laughed and spoke. Tobio, are you forgetting some things? The supernatural has a lot of companies disguised as human companies. The economy of the supernatural is highly inflated. There is a reason why many of the richest families have their connections to the supernatural. Tobio remembered this, as he nodded. Issei then continued. Not only that, they use the profits gained by humans to benefit their own selfish desires. You remember on how Azazel and the fallen angels have infiltrated many industries, especially entertainment, to allow gods to live in luxury homes that would have belonged to humans. Not only that, they can manipulate and toy with the memories of humans for their own benefit. The others nodded in understanding. They knew on how manipulative the supernatural factions have become, to the point of using humans for their own selfish desires. They had to be dealt with. That was the purpose of BLACKWATCH, and it was to eliminate the supernatural infestation that was present in the human world. They had to get rid of them permanently. I see. And we can gain support once we expose the real face of the supernatural, right? Peter asked, to which Issei spoke. Exactly, that is what we are going to aim for. Speaking of which, does Mr. President support us? Peter shook his head and spoke. He is tempted, but declaring war against all of the supernatural could not only endanger the people of his country, but the supernatural would be going after humans in other countries as well. Peter spoke with a sigh as Elena spoke. But we can't blame him. Unlike the supernatural that serve themselves, the president of a country will try his best to serve the people. Unless they are corrupted. Peter shook his head and spoke. In that case, there is nothing that can be done. Greed can tempt humans as well. We are susceptible to it. But the supernatural has used this sin of human along with several others to bring them down a wrong path, and it is up to us to set things right. Peter spoke with a determined tone as Elena nodded in agreement. She knew that the supernatural can tempt humans by manipulating them in various ways. They needed to prevent any more of this from happening. First, we will divide ourselves and complete several tasks. James, Elena and Robert, your goals are to get as many scientists and soldiers as you can for this new organization. The three nodded in understanding, as they knew what they had to do. Issei then looked at Tobio and spoke. Tobio, your job will be to report what all the supernatural is planning. I have Valerie and Valerie doing the same at different location. Yours will be in Grigori. Tobio nodded in agreement as he will keep an eye on what the fallen angels are doing. The Slashdog team is ready for what comes next for them. Peter, try getting more support if you can, and make sure we can establish a proper base in US. This place is perfect since the supernatural activity is the lowest. Go for a place known as Maryland, near Washington, D.C. Peter nodded in understanding as he spoke. I understand. In the meantime, I will secure the funding needed. Worry not, I have people that will help me for this work. I will pretend to play as a criminal and steal from the wealthiest of the devil families. That way we can even harm them as well. The others nodded in understanding, as Issei soon called off the meeting with Elena, Peter and Robert, saying their goodbyes to them, with them promising to meet again. James and Tobio were left alone with Issei, as Issei asked. Did you bring the boosted gear? Tobio looked at Issei and nodded, as he brought out a red gauntlet with gems on it. He then tapped on the gem as a voice exclaimed. For thousands of years I lay dormant, who dares disturb me? Issei, James and Tobio sweat dropped at his antics, as the voice soon spoke. Best buddy, is that you? Yeah, it's me. I managed to survive the shitstorm that was the supernatural world. It's good to see you again too, Drake. The now identified Drake was happy on hearing that his partner was alright and well. Drake then responded. Good to see you too, Issei. Issei placed the gear and smiled, fixing the gear, as Drake saw all his memories and spoke with slight seriousness. So you have done it, eh? You decided to take the blacklight virus inside of you, right? Issei nodded. Both James and Tobio were informed prior to the meeting about the virus. They were also assured, like Valerie, Rind and Rise, that Issei was still the same. Issei then spoke. Yep, and since the supernatural loves controlling the lives of what they deem as lesser beings, I have decided that the BLACKWATCH organization will be the one to combat this organization. Drake took a deep breath and spoke. Are you sure, partner? You will not only endanger yourself, but you will endanger Heller as well. He doesn't have a way to defend himself. Sorry, James. James shook his head and spoke. It's alright, Drake, plus I have no reason to live anyway. James spoke with a tone devoid of emotion. His only purpose in life was to get back against those that had killed his wife and daughter. And he will achieve that one day. Many felt saddened for the general, as Issei spoke. Heller, you are not alone in this fight. We are all fighting against the supernatural so that no one will go through what you did. James only looked at Issei and nodded before he spoke. I should take my leave, there is a meeting I need to attend. Goodbye, Tobio, Issei. James left the room, leaving Issei and Tobio pondering on what to do next. James, like many in BLACKWATCH, desires vengeance against the supernatural for what they had done to his family. He wondered on what other lives the supernatural had screwed up just to get themselves some glory or for other purposes. Scene change. Time skip brought to you by Chibi Issei playing some prototype. The next day. Outside Gremory Private Limited, 9:30 a.m. It was a sunny day in the state of California. Many people were enjoying the bright sun that was lightening up the streets. There was a truck with a driver outside that was patiently waiting for something. Issei was watching the company from the sidelines. He was dressed in a striking outfit consisting of a black jacket with white drawstrings over a red shirt, with visible straps and buckles, adding to the combat-ready look. His black pants are torn at the knees, adding a rugged, battle-worn appearance. He looked at the company as he wore his hoodie and spoke. Time to get to work. He leaped from the building and reached an alleyway. As he walked outside, he soon wore a mask and headed inside the company building. He then thought. The Gremory Medicinal Private Limited Company, one of Serzich's personal companies that he is the CEO and owner of, the said company is a sole proprietorship, meaning Serzich's does everything in the company from handling major employees to monitoring major budgets and even overseeing operations. The company sells pharmaceuticals and other major medicinal tools like syringes and monitors, to name a few. Issei thought as he took a seat as he pretended to be a customer in the company building. He knew that his plan would kick in within a few minutes. They were beneficial in the COVID-19 pandemic that happened in the USA, or that's what the news outlets claimed, but in reality they sold their vaccines for exorbitant prices, almost at $300 per vaccine, claiming that their vaccines provides immunity for 3 to 4 years and were hard to make. The truth, the vaccines were produced using magic and medicinal herbs that the Gremory family stockpiles in secret, terminating or demonizing any human that gets to know about their secret practices and removes the memories of the loved ones of the human that knows about them. Worse, it barely is a chore to develop these vaccines, and even a human pharmacist that had barely any medical knowledge can develop them if they are given access to the magic. Issei thought with anger in his mind, knowing on how many humans were killed and their memories wiped clean to cover up their tracks. Some more had to give up their humanity to keep themselves alive. Issei looked at the watch and muttered to himself. It's time. Suddenly in the air vents, gas was released into building. This was concentrated halothane gas, as Issei waited patiently for the people present to start sniffing the gas. He made sure to add some holy magic which would allow the gas to even affect the devils in the buildings. He could sense thousands of devils inside the building. The cameras were also shut down, disabling them completely. Issei smirked knowing that one of his allies helped him. The gas started to take effect, with many passing out immediately. Some tried to call for help or contact using magic circles, but they failed and passed out as well. Issei got up and started to head towards the manager of the building. Some guards saw this and pointed their magic circles at Issei, but they also started to fall unconscious. Issei placed his hand on the manager's head and used tendrils to pierce the skin and skull without harming or killing the individual. He did train to use his abilities, making sure to not kill people. Thanks for the info. Issei spoke while changing his voice to sound different as he left the room. He then spoke taking a glance at the manager's body. Normally I would consume you, but I don't want to direct too much attention to myself. At least not yet. Issei spoke in the same voice with disdain, knowing that the manager is also a pure-blooded devil that is working under Surzages. He looked at the disabled cameras and knew that the people watching the cameras are also deep asleep. He smirked as he headed to the lower floors of the building and saw a huge vault. He tore off the locked doors with his super strength and ripped them apart. He then looked at the keypad and typed in the password, and the vault doors opened. Inside, to his amusement, there were stacks of dollar notes on multiple shelves. Along with it there were thousands of gold bars stacked on shelves and covered with glass doors as well. Issei smirked in response as he spoke. This would be more than enough funding for at least a year. This is a criminal's dream come true. Issei snapped his fingers as magic portals opened all across the bank vault as he spoke. Time to clean up this vault. The money note stacks and gold bars were gone from the vault. It went in a completely different location. Issei soon leaped out of the vault and headed back to the lobby room as he could see that they are all still asleep. He soon headed to the truck waiting outside and spoke. It's done. The truck driver gave a nod as Issei leaped inside the truck and it soon sped off with many not being aware of what just happened. Issei removed his mask in the truck. Once they were at a nearby forest area. An aircraft with a tree symbol showed up as it took the pickup truck. The driver removed her cap and changed into a hoodie. She was an elf who wore a medieval or fantasy style outfit. The outfit includes a hooded cloak, leather armor with shoulder guards, and a black mask covering the lower half of the face. The person is also wearing a green top and a brown leather skirt with multiple belts and straps. The ensemble is completed with leather bracers on the arms. This was Liana Greenwood, a good friend of Issei and part of the Silverleaf Sentinels, an elven guild that is known for committing heists. Yes, we are done. You just make it so easy. Liana spoke with a smile, knowing that they just uncovered one of their biggest heists in a while. Issei then spoke. Well, that's just how it is, so what do you plan on doing with the money? After all, I am giving you 60% of the share. Liana kept her hand on her mask and spoke. I will probably go at a spa and get some manicure. Some of the spa parlors here are pretty good. I could probably get the girls some well-deserved massages. Liana spoke thinking about the revitalizing time she and her guildmates will experience. She could only dream of the enjoyment that she is going to experience. I see. Issei mused as he and Liana unloaded the money into the aircraft using magic as Issei responded. Thanks for the help. What are you talking about? It is the least we could have done for you Ice. Liana spoke with a smile, remembering on how much Issei helped them. He then spoke. Well then, guess this is it then. I will catch up with you some other time. Issei was about to leave when Liana removed her mask and grabbed Issei's hand much to his surprise and kissed his cheek which caught him off guard as he spoke. Huh. Consider this a thank you. Liana spoke with a slight blush. Issei noticed her rosy lips and she had a smile. Issei could only nod as Liana waved a rope and it fell from the airship. She grabbed it and the aircraft flew off, but not before saying. Always remember Ice, you may have a shit life, but always remember that there are people that you can always rely on and cherish including me, until next time. Liana exclaimed as she climbed up the rope and entered into the aircraft. Issei could only watch her leave, with him speaking. Yeah. Issei trailed off in disbelief as he looked at the truck. There was one thing he could do now. He entered into the truck and drove into the roads which were the scenic jungle roads in California. While he was traveling, Issei was reminiscing more on his past. I always did the right thing, and what did it get me? Issei continued with sadness as he remembered more of his past. I tried to help others, I am met with scorns and hatred. I tried to protect and save others, my brother takes the credit. Issei continued, his sadness being replaced with anger as Drake tried to call out to him. I save the world and the world wants me dead. I try to uphold my family's legacy, I get disowned. Issei's anger is maximum as Drake screams. Partner. Issei jolts and immediately hits the brakes on the truck as Drake spoke. Thank office I was able to reach out to you, you were losing focus on the road. Issei realized this and knew that an accident would have happened. This truck belonged to one of Peter's contacts, and he had to remove the license plate when the robbery happened so that he does not fall into trouble. Damaging it would cause problems for Peter, and he did not want anything to happen. Sorry Drake, I was just remembering some of my past. Drake understood his past, and now the supernatural is going to suffer for its actions. However, he remembered what Liana had told him. Partner, remember what that elf said to you, are you really going to let them down, like this? Issei realized this and could only look down in shame and sadness, as he knew what would have happened to those that he cared for. He would be damned if anything happened to them. You're right Drake. I really am sorry, I won't let my past get the better of me. I will use it as a source of motivation for what I am about to do. Issei looked in front of him, the road ahead, signifying his long journey that would happen to him. He knew that he had a long road ahead of him, and he will complete it once and for all. Just keep your emotions in check partner, spend time with those that truly care for you and love you. I know you can do it partner, you may have people that will be a roadblock to you, but I and many of those that cherish you will be by your side. Issei nodded in agreement as he started to drive his truck ahead. He had to get to the portal he had set up in a secret location in the forest areas. Get ready supernatural, I am only getting started with you. Issei thought with a determined tone, he was definitely going to fight for humanity, no matter what happens. Unbeknownst to him, someone important from his past is going to need his help soon enough. Scene change. Kuo Academy, Kuo, 11:30 a.m. Valerie was seated in Kuo Academy, she groaned in annoyance knowing full well that she has to deal with idiots in the academy. Valerie was disguised as a third year, but that only got rid of the Gremory 1 Isamas and Citri Devil and Queen. She was soon surrounded by Asia, Zenobia and Irina. She looked at them and asked. What do you guys want? We wanted to know, why are you not with Dai? Valerie was internally seething upon hearing this question, but she had to keep calm for Issei's sake, since he has plans for all these girls. Like I said, he is nothing but a stepping stone. I want to get strong in my life Argento. I got no time to waste for stupid love like you girls. After what Angraman you did, you all have been slacking a lot and someone stronger will attack you. Valerie spoke with utter coldness, they are too reliant on Dai Haidu for their survival, when they should be training in order for them to survive. Zenobia then spoke. You needn't worry, we will train, but Dai can handle any threat that comes our way. He will protect us. Valerie grew annoyed by this, as she got up and spoke. If you really believe that, then there is nothing that I can do for you idiots. Valerie walked out of the room, as the girls felt annoyed by Valerie's attitude. It was a surprise that she returned after being out of touch for so long, but even after her return, she was still the same. She still did not want to be with Dai, even when everyone was saying that it was the best thing that could happen to her. Valerie, wait. Valerie turned around to hear Irina call out to her, as she asked. What? Azazel-sensei has been trying to contact you, you should probably go and check on him. Valerie nodded, she knew that Azazel has been trying to talk or communicate with her, but she had cut off all communications with him for weeks. She knew she would have to run in with Azazel sooner or later. Might as well deal with him right now. Valerie thought with annoyance, since later she may not be in a mood to deal with that crow, who is supposed to be her father. She eventually reached Azazel's cabin where she knocked and entered into the cabin, as Azazel sarcastically said. Ah Valerie, you took your sweet time to contact me, huh? I have my own life to live, while you folks are celebrating your victory against Angramanu, I have been settling down with my family. So I am sorry if I couldn't attend your calls Azazel. Valerie wanted to make certain things clear, she will make it clear that she is not going to get wed to Dai Haidu no matter what happens. She already has a mate in her life, and that is Issei Mercer. It's alright, I wanted to ask, will you consider? Valerie cuts him off and speaks. Nope. I refuse. Azazel only spoke with a frustrated tone. You didn't even listen to what I have to say. Pause, I know what you are going to say Azazel. And no, for the 10th time, I am not getting engaged to Dai Haidu, cause I don't like him. I prefer a stronger mate, not only in strength but also in heart. Dai does not qualify for either of the traits. Not to mention, he only wants to see me naked, I don't want a man that loves me for my body, Azazel. Azazel could only get frustrated, first Barakiel's death was well known amongst the factions, and no sign of the perpetrator was identified. Valerie was also refusing to be engaged, Dai adding on to his frustrations. But Valerie, I am only choosing what's best for you. You misunderstand Dai completely, he is not only strong, but he is also good at heart. You will thank me for my help. Azazel spoke while controlling his anger, as Valerie groaned in response annoying him even further, she then spoke with a tone that left no argument. Let me make one thing clear, I am an adult, I can make my own decisions, and my choice is to remain unmarried. I don't want to get engaged or even married to Dai. I refuse to abide by your choice, and I will choose on who I get to marry. if you don't like it. Valerie spoke as the divine dividing wings come out from her back as she speaks. I will make sure you accept my choice, whether you like it or not. And I know on how to make you comply to my choices. I am the White Dragon Empress, remember that. Azazel could only back away, she really refused to get engaged at all costs. He could grit his teeth in anger and frustration as Valerie spoke with a dark smirk. Oh, and let me tell you, I have learned many tricks on how to deal with fallen angels from Issei, who was happy to lend me a hand long before you killed him. Azazel was getting even more angrier, he knew that he couldn't attack Valerie due to her being not only the Lucifer descendant but also of her being the White Dragon Empress. Valerie was as stubborn as ever as Azazel spoke with anger. Though he may be intelligent, but he is not that capable. Azazel's voice had some arrogance as Valerie was seething, it was taking her everything to not strangle the cadre to death now. Not only has been forcing her to get wed to someone she despises with all her heart, but also he had the audacity to badmouth and underestimate Issei. But she promised Issei to try her level best to be patient with him, since Azazel was his and Rhind's prey to deal with. Speaking of Rhind, she was furious at the fact that Azazel has not given up flirting with her mother. She was excited on what Issei plans on doing with her. Your underestimating Issei's capabilities will be your downfall. He has been patient with you, and your constant annoyance will be the reason for your death. Before I would be saddened at your demise, but now I would relish your demise. Valerie thought with annoyance and anger as she spoke while rolling her eyes. Well, whatever helps you sleep, Azazel, goodbye and don't contact me ever again if you want to speak about Dai. Valerie walked out of the office as Azazel shouted. You will regret not being engaged to Dai, don't come crying by the fact that you aren't married to anyone. Valerie ignored him and left the room. She soon had a smirk on her face and spoke. I am afraid I won't be the one crying, Azazel. Valerie headed back to the class. She knew that she had to keep a watch on certain girls, knowing that their downfall is coming soon. A few weeks have passed since the raid at the Gremory Medicinal Private Limited Company. Issei and the Silverleaf Sentinels have been coordinating more and more raids. News coverage barely got any information on the raiders. When they mostly got the stolen amount, which were usually in the range of $100 to $200 billion per heist, and they targeted only certain companies and banks. Many didn't understand why they targeted those companies only. Issei and Liana, along with her guild, knew why they targeted those companies, since many of them were supernatural-based companies. They knew that heists like this are merely going to put a dent in their income. Issei only took the money needed for his company, which was still over the budget that they would desire for the company. However, Liana let him sometimes keep higher the share of the profits. Issei, at first, didn't want to fall under suspicion, but Liana convinced him to keep the money, since without him they wouldn't even would go for the heists. I think this should be enough for BLACKWATCH, right? Liana asked, to which Issei spoke. Yep, we managed to get enough funding that will secure us for years. Liana nodded in agreement, this amount of money would make anyone a billionaire. Now they had to store the money into a bank account that no one would ever know of. And I can live in peace along with my elves in the hidden dimension. Liana spoke with a smile as she removed her mask that she usually wore and gently smiled. She knew that her people are in the decline due to the factions actively desiring their race for its high magical capabilities, turning many of them into their species like reincarnated devils or brave saints, for instance. Some unfortunate ones were even turned into vampires. Just stay safe, alright? Liana nodded as she was about to leave before she, like always, kissed Issei on the cheek. She looked towards Issei and spoke with a blushing smile. It's a shame that we can't actually make out properly due to the virus, but next time we meet I promise you, I will move our relationship, that is a promise. Issei had a red tint as he could only nod. Liana always got the better of him in any relationship, she was much bolder than he is. Soon a rope was landed right next to her as she grabbed it and shouted while she was being lifted off. When you perform a raid, do hit me up. Got it, Ice. Issei exclaimed with a smile. You got it, Liana. Liana gave a smile before the aircraft along with Liana teleported out of there. Issei looked at the money he had received. It was $120 billion, while Liana had taken $80 billion for her and her crew. The total amount they raided was $200 billion. Now to place this in a bank account that no one will suspect. Issei snapped his fingers and the money in the truck was gone. He returned the truck back to Robert and returned back. He smirked in happiness, everything was going according to plan. Gremory Mansion, Underworld, 9:30 a.m. News of an unknown thief raiding select companies were being broadcasted throughout the media as the news anchor spoke. Certain companies have been raided in just a span of few weeks by well-coordinated attacks by several thieves that have stolen the net worth of trillions of dollars. Nobody knew who these criminals were until just today when our anchor was able to interview the main thief. The scene in the television shifted to the news reporter who managed to get near the man before he could leave as he spoke. I am right here, live with the man himself. Sir, could you please let us know who you are and why are you raiding these banks? The person was none other than Issei in his disguised form as he leaped into the driver's seat and spoke. My name is Dr. Alexander J. Mercer, and why I did what I did will be revealed to humanity soon enough. Just stay patient, you will know a big secret that is hidden from all of you. Issei speaks using a voice modulator as the anchor nods, but before he could ask another question. Issei is already driven off to an unknown location as the anchor speaks. So as you can see and hear, he is Dr. Alexander J. Mercer, getting back to you anchor. The television scene shifts to the anchor who spoke with a surprised tone. Dr. Alexander J. Mercer, wasn't he supposed to be a video game character from the prototype series? How can he come out from the video game and enter into real life? To answer all these questions, stay live on. The television is switched off by Serziches who was watching that. He growled wondering on who this Alexander J. Mercer really is. His company had been raided by the man in front of him multiple times, to the point of causing losses in billions. Grafia looked at Serziches as she asked. Serziches Sama. Contact Azazel and Shemhazai, we have gotten our target and the one who can be a possible suspect for Barakiel's death. Grafia nodded and did as she was asked, as soon enough the two fallen angels joined in. The duo then asked with Azazel asking first. So what did you bring us here for? Serziches said nothing and showed them the news report. They all looked intently as they were clenching their fists in anger. Shemhazai then spoke with anger in his tone. So this Mercer was the one who stole from our banks just a few days ago. Shemhazai's words were earned a nod from Serziches as he spoke. Yes, not only was he the one that is raiding from our banks. He is also the one that is a suspect in what happened to Barakiel. Azazel and Shemhazai were surprised by this, as Azazel spoke with a tone of surprise. How can you be so sure? Serziches spoke in response seriously. Certain people that were present in the heist and raids had the same marks on the head as that fallen angel Jessica, who seemed to be mind-controlled against her allies. I believe you noticed those marks in your people, right? Azazel and Shemhazai remembered the marks. They weren't able to figure out at first, but now it made sense. This was due to not knowing on who exactly was the one that had raided from them, with witness accounts being different from person to person. None could see his face or hear his voice, for they could know anyone could be behind the mask. Now they have a suspect who not only stole from them, but also had been responsible for the events that had happened to Barakiel weeks ago. The only problem, Azazel remembers the name Mercer from a game series, which didn't make any sense. And he was vocal about it. But how can a video game character come into the real life? My only guess is that someone is masking him and creating a false identity for himself. Our goal is to capture him before the authorities in the human world do so. Azazel suggested as Shemhazai responded. Yes, you're right. We need to unmask his real self before someone else gets to him. Shemhazai's words were agreed by both Serziches and Grafia. Serziches then spoke. I will inform the rest of the leaders. From what I hear, the Hindu pantheon plans to make the alliance official, right? Azazel nodded and spoke with a serious tone. Yes, you are right. He does plan to make it official. Azazel spoke as Serziches knew that more allies they have, the better. They were overconfident in dealing with Alexander J. Mercer, believing that he is just an ordinary human who can be dealt with at any time. Little do they know, this would be the first in a series of mistakes that they would create. Scene change. Haidu Clan Residence, Tokyo, Japan, 12:30 p.m. The Haidu Clan Residence, the place that was once called a home by Issei Haidu, was a place of very few good memories and many bad memories. There were several corpses, all belonging to mages and other weapon wielders of the Haidu clan. Issei can be seen accessing databanks in a personal computer, as beside him was a man in his 40s. He was described to be a brown-haired man who had green eyes. He seemed to be wearing formal clothing that it described to be a black blazer with matching black pants and a white shirt. This was none other than Goro Haidu, Issei's former father and the current leader of the Haidu clan. He was, however, unconscious courtesy of Issei. Sleep tight. Father. Issei spoke mockingly. He looked at the unconscious figure of his former father. He could kill him right then and there, but where is the fun in that? He wanted the man to lose everything and ruin everything for him. The reason was that Issei was the true leader of the Haidu clan, something he was well aware of, thanks to getting his hands on Juzo's diary, where it was stated that it was Issei that shall lead the clan. I still remember grandfather, the only person I can truly call is my own family. He wanted me to lead the clan, but you took that away from me. Grandfather never wanted you to be the leader of the clan because of your selfishness, evil and arrogance, but worry not. Once I am done with you, you will want to kill yourself. Issei spoke with anger in his voice as he continued to search for the computer. He soon looked across several files that can be useful for his goals. All these files had the clan of Goro and his family's past deeds, which involved unethical business practices, murder, smuggling of goods to name a few. He smirked as he brought out a flash drive and copied all these files. He pulled out the flash drive soon enough. However, something else got his attention, and this was the fact that the clan had been secretly researching against spells and magic that would eventually harm God or God-class beings. Upon seeing these files, Issei smirked sadistically. He then spoke. I never knew that you and the clan had the same idea as we do. Interesting. Issei took another flash drive and copied all the reports and data information that would be needed for his crusade against the supernatural. You should be thankful, Father. Once I am done with the supernatural and these gods, you and your clan will be next on my bucket list. After all, I want to save the best for the last. Issei closed the computer and pulled out the flash drive, and soon he left the room. After a few minutes, Goro woke up and rubbed his eyes as he spoke. Ugh. What happened? Goro looked to see his personal computer on and was surprised to see it on. He immediately checked around wondering on who was the perpetrator was but couldn't find anyone. He got up and decided to look around as he could see what had happened. No. Goro trailed off as he could see mountain of corpses that belonged to his clansmen. He could only hold his head and almost rip them and scream out in anger at the person who did it. He will find the person and make them pay with their lives. They made the mistake that harmed the Haidu clan, and there will always be a payment. Scene change. Beach House, California, USA, 8:30 p.m. Issei walked into the beach house and looked to see someone beautiful, modern multi-story house with a warm and inviting exterior. The facade features large windows that allow for ample natural light and provide a glimpse into the elegantly decorated interior. The house has multiple balconies, offering outdoor spaces to enjoy the surroundings. A well-maintained garden with lush greenery and a pathway leads up to the entrance, which is illuminated by stylish outdoor lighting. Someone was waiting for him outside as he walked towards him. This was Corvider, the person that actually owned the beachside property. Issei was merely renting it from him. I wanted to remind you, your rent is due in 2 days. Issei knew that the person is human and is clueless about the supernatural surrounding him. Issei then speaks. I understand, I will have it. Speaking of which, is it possible to buy this property from you? Corvider was stunned upon hearing this. He looked at Issei with wide eyes. He knew that the boy had just rented the house a few weeks back. Issei then spoke. I mean, you can purchase a rental property if you want, isn't that right? Corvider was speechless. Issei was right. The terms and conditions did specify that Issei could purchase the house within the rent duration is over. Issei then spoke. In that case, when can we do the negotiations? Corvider spoke in response. We can do it tomorrow in the afternoon. I can arrive with the agent for the transference. We can also settle the amount needed to purchase the house. I will be needing anything necessary like legal documents that will be needed. I understand, I will have it. Issei spoke with a smile as Corvider leaves Issei. He then looks at his house and spoke. Yes, I secured myself a place of living. Issei fortunately had the intelligence to gather the necessary documents to get the place. He had already been preparing for it whenever he had been either not setting up BLACKWATCH or committing raids. Issei entered inside the house and sat on the balcony of the first floor and looked at the scenery. The beach breeze flew on his face, and he enjoyed the breeze as he opened a can of Diet Coke and had some pizza that was ordered yesterday. Earlier he had preheated the pizza in his oven and placed it in a plate. Ah, this is life. Issei spoke to himself as Drake responded. You do know that your current diet is unhealthy, right? Issei nodded and responded. I know, but I hardly know cooking all that much. I always end up burning up the kitchen. The good thing was that I found a way to earn money with my inventions. I managed to freelance and earn quite a bit of cash. And my clan at least used to leave behind food for me, while they had all the good stuff. Issei spoke with slight anger remembering his past, as Drake responded. I guess, but take up some cooking lessons once you do end up buying the house, or hire a cook and learn some skills. You may need it when you cannot have your pizza and Diet Coke. Issei took his advice, as Drake cuts off the connection. The breeze again blows on his face, as he enjoys every moment of the scenery. He knew that this was something he was going to enjoy every single day. He had his food as he remembered the deeds he did. He knew that the supernatural would turn their attention to Dr. Alexander J. Mercer. This would get their attention off him. Since the interview was a part of his plan. He moved the sliding window with his plate and can. He threw the can into the dustbin. He placed the plate in the dishwasher where the plate was cleaned automatically. He soon started the AC and slept on the bed, tired from all the heists and planning he had done. He knew that tomorrow will be another day. Scene change. I'm Skip, brought to you by Chibi Surzic is wondering who Chibi Alexander is. The next day. Beach House, California, USA, 6:30 p.m. Issei was watching the scenery in his newly purchased house. He had already discussed with Corvider and even agreed on purchasing the household items that was present here. He then spoke. This house does cost quite the fortune, wouldn't you agree? Issei spoke looking at Drake as he had spoken. Yep, your house alone costed $1.25 million, and the appliances present costed another $600k, amounting a total of a whopping $1.85 million. That equates to 255.3 million Japanese yen if you want to buy this house. Issei nodded in agreement as he smirked knowing he found a better and peaceful house that he had purchased. Now, he can do anything with his house as long as it is in the agreement. True, the heists did help us gain quite the huge amount of funds. If anything, I am now a certified billionaire. Issei spoke mockingly, remembering the amount of cash he had stolen from the companies belonging to the supernatural. At least the money is going to go for a good cause. Yep, and this is just the beginning of what I have planned for them. For now, let's just enjoy the scenery of our new home. Issei nodded in agreement as he opened a can of Diet Coke to celebrate his purchase of the new home. Drake commented seeing this. How pitiful, I was expecting you to have a bottle of champagne for buying such a wonderful house. Issei retorted with an annoyed tone. Shut it, Drake. Issei looked embarrassed as Drake could only laugh at his best friend's embarrassment as he spoke. Maybe I should invite the others to this house. Should we do a party since tomorrow is going to be the foundation of BLACKWATCH as an organization? That would be for the best. Now let's enjoy ourselves for the day. Unless you have plans to cause some chaos in the factions. Issei then spoke with a sadistic grin. I have some plans, but we will enjoy ourselves for a day or two before we start enacting our plans. BLACKWATCH will start its production of their own form of super soldiers, meant to combat and fight against humanity. These soldiers will be having a modified strain of the Blacklight virus, which will allow them to have strong resistance to magic attacks. That is my first project that I plan on doing. Second, I plan to make weapons that would harm supernatural beings only. Humans will be unaffected by these weapons. Issei had a few ideas, which Drake noted on. He got up and picked up an Apple MacBook Pro 16 and placed the flash drive on the port. The Haidu clan's research into weaponry and magical abilities that can harm gods is really surprising. Apparently, their goal was to fight against the Shinto pantheon if they ever become a problem or cause interference to their goals and objectives. It is amazing on how they managed to develop the magic circle in such a manner. Take a look, Drake. Drake mused in amazement too. The duo were surprised that the Haidu clan had secretly researched into all these things while keeping a charade of a powerful human mage family. They had big dreams where they could overpower and defeat gods. Quite the amusing dreams these humans had. It's a shame that theirs is for their own selfish causes. I must admit they have found several artifacts and magical abilities and detailed their capabilities into a proper manner. This even included killing of yakai beings like Yasaka, Magari or Nararian if they ever gets in their way. This included selective holy and yakai slaying magic that would immediately kill even the strongest of yakai. I must say this is quite amazing. This made our war against the supernatural easier than before. Drake commented in amazement, with Issei noting this to be true, as much as he hated his former clan. They made their job more easier to fight against the supernatural world. Speaking of which, from what I hear there was someone else in the clan that was treated as a pariah at the same time as you were, right? Drake spoke, remembering a female as Issei thought for a moment as he remembered who the person was. He then spoke. Yeah, I do, even she left them since she did not want to deal with the clan's bullshit. Honestly, I wonder what she is doing right now. I can't blame her for cutting all ties with us. Issei remembered her, since her college was somewhere nearby in California. He should pay her a visit. True, let's hope your pathetic clan does not get to her before you do, else there would be even more problems. Issei nodded in agreement. He didn't want to make sure she is alright and safe before he can do anything. Maybe she can join him, but he highly doubts since she prefers to live in peace like he does. You should spare some time for tomorrow, where you can catch up with her. Drake suggested as Issei nodded in agreement. He then spoke. I should probably take a walk around the beach. I should see what the beach has to offer. Issei closed the laptop and decided to head outside, where he suddenly looked down to see a magic circle of Greek origin. He recognized the magic circle as he was about to speak. Wait a minute, how did? Issei was unable to complete before he was suddenly teleported to an unknown location. Scene change. Unknown warehouse, USA, 11 p.m. Issei fell from a ceiling where he used his draconic wings to land successfully. He looked around wondering where the summoner was, as suddenly a voice was heard. You're a hard man to track, Issei. Issei widened his eyes recognizing the voice as he turned around to see a familiar goddess standing behind him. He then spoke with a tone of surprise. Persephone? The goddess Persephone walked up to him and punched him in the gut, taking the wind out of him. He coughed up looking at Persephone, but before he could do anything, she embraced him tightly, catching him off guard. Ever since your death, things have become harder for us, at least inform us where you were. Idiot. Issei didn't say anything. If Persephone was like that, he dreaded how the others like Athena and Artemis would be without him. They would lose any and all sort of will if that were to happen. He had to make plans of visiting them soon. As for Persephone, he could hear her sniffling, meaning that she missed him a lot. He then spoke with an apologetic tone. I am sorry, I didn't know you were worried about me too much. Persephone. In response, Persephone hugged him tighter, making him yelp in pain. She then spoke. How many times have I told you to not call me by my name? Issei recalled this and spoke. Sorry mom. Issei hugged her in response. He knew Persephone treated him like an actual son instead of a friend or an outsider. He treated her like his own mother and trusted her and her family with his secrets and work more than his own birth family. They stayed like this for a while before they eventually split up. They soon took a seat as Issei spoke. Well, a lot has happened after my death, you know. Persephone cuts him off and speaks with a smile. The mother knows everything. I know that to save your life you injected yourself with the blacklight virus and you even consumed Barakiel when he attacked you. Truth be told, I always was weary of you taking that virus, knowing how it could have truly ended your life and replaced you with a virus duplicate that has your memories and personality. Persephone kept her hand on Issei as she continued. And I am not going to deny it, we feared the worst when your death had taken place. You being killed at any moment and your current state, but I know that you are still Issei, the same Issei that saved me from purgatory. Persephone spoke with a smile as she turned her gaze away and spoke with a slight mocking tone. I also know about BLACKWATCH and your heists that you did with that elven girl. Is she going to be my future daughter-in-law too? Issei became red in response as he asked with embarrassment. Have you been spying on me? Persephone closed her eyes and looked up before speaking with a smile. The mother knows everything. Issei couldn't help but grumble in response. Persephone soon seemed sad and something as she spoke. Ever since your absence, a lot has happened. Issei looked at her and asked his adoptive mother. What happened, mom? And now that you mentioned it, Hades is missing. Where is he? Persephone didn't respond as tears started to fall from her face. Issei noticed this and became worried as he asked. Mom, what happened to Hades? He was kidnapped. Issei widened his eyes and exclaimed. What? How? Who did it? It was the Greek faction. They did this to him. Issei was shocked as Persephone explained to him everything that had happened 2 days ago. Flashback begins. What is the meaning of this, Zeus? Persephone shouted with anger as several gods restrained the couple along with their daughters. The restraints were coated with god-slaying magic that would weaken their powers. The reason they had gotten to them was because they ambushed them when they were least expecting. Zeus walked forward and spoke with a smirk. Hades is a criminal, Persephone, and I never knew you were alive all this while, you couldn't even visit us. Persephone gritted her teeth in fury as he looked at Ares and Hermes, who used some blades coated with god-slaying magic. You are going to tell me where that brat Issei is? I know the two of you know his current whereabouts. Persephone responded with outright anger in her tone. There was no way she was going to reveal Issei's location. Never, you are not getting anything from me. I don't even know his current whereabouts. Zeus gritted his teeth in response, seeing his anger. Hades mocked him. You are only angry because your daughters chose him over dear old daddy. You were always power hungry and wanting the best brother. Here is the thing, if you do find him and torment him, who knows, your daughters will actually disown you completely. Zeus was seething in rage as he turned to his 2 sons. He then spoke. Do it. The boys walked towards Melano and Macaria and started striking them with the blades that had god-slaying magic, causing the 2 sisters to scream in pain. Persephone looked in horror as Hades shouted. No, don't hurt them. Zeus only looked at his brother with a smile and spoke. Then tell us where Issei is, or we can take Hades and force the information out from him. The choice is yours. Persephone really detested Zeus now, but she was worried on her daughter's states. However, what surprised her was Hades speaking. Fine, I will come. But remember, you have made a really big mistake today. Zeus could only roll his eyes and motion Hermes and Ares to take Hades away as they released Persephone and the others, with Persephone rushing to her daughters to check whether they are alright or not. She could see the scars and wounds that the blades left on her as Zeus spoke. There will be a trial for his sins. It will be televised and broadcasted to everyone. I hope you see this and remember that all this happened due to you keeping Issei in secret. Persephone could only watch her husband being taken away by these bastards. She had to first help her daughters and them find Issei as soon as possible. Flashback ends. Persephone explained everything as Issei was beyond livid. He wanted to make an example of Zeus right away and make his demise extremely painful. This was something he vows as Persephone spoke. I know you are busy, but you should focus on your own goals. Issei only stayed silent and spoke after a while. Where are they keeping him? Persephone spoke in response as she added. I know you were. Wait, what? You heard me, where are they keeping Dad? Persephone looked worried as she added. But Issei, if you reveal your identity, then everything you have built it will be over. Issei shook his head and responded. No, I won't reveal my identity, you can count on it. How many days do we have for the trial? Issei spoke with a serious and cold tone, as Persephone spoke. 6 days from today, even I don't know where they are keeping him. But I know his trial will be held in Olympus's courtroom. But from what I hear you have other plans, right? Issei nodded and spoke. I plan on visiting someone important, but I can postpone that. Persephone shook her head and spoke. No, don't, I have a gut feeling that this person means a lot to you. Persephone spoke with a sad smile as Issei could only look away. She then spoke to Issei. Look at me, Ice. You will visit that person, then we will rescue Hades, you can count on it, any help you need. We will provide, but you will visit that person first, Issei, cause you may never meet that person again. Issei was surprised. He knew that he can meet that person at any time he wants, but he did not want to argue with Persephone as for now. Since she wants him to visit that person who is very important to him. Issei looked at her for a moment and spoke with a sigh. Fine, if that's what you want. Then I am alright with it. Persephone smiled in response and spoke. That's more than enough, and I think we should leave the warehouse, this place is kind of bland. Yep. Issei and Persephone both teleported out of there, as Issei thought. Mother has still the same smile like she usually does. Issei and Leanna were present in the UC Berkeley University, where the person that Issei was supposed to meet was present. Leanna was present in her human disguise, which made her lose her elven ears and appear more human. She was now wearing a navy blue polo and white pants, coupled with a belt. She wore black muscle bands and arm bands, along with traditional shoes. I am actually surprised that you wanted to come for this. Issei spoke with a surprised tone. It was a surprise that they actually crossed paths. She was here for a hair appointment and she was about done with hers. Well, I got nothing much to do, and you do want to visit her, right? Leanna spoke with a smile as she twirled around and asked. So how does this hairdo look? I spent quite the amount to get it done. Leanna spoke as she asked her crush for the how she looked, to which Issei spoke with a smile. You look amazing. Although I prefer your curly hairstyle look. Leanna had a slight red tint. He preferred her original style, while she expected him to like the current look that she had. She never expected this to be true. Deciding to change the topic, she grunted and spoke. We should probably get going, we are not going to have all day. Leanna lost her blush as the duo headed to the academy. Registering as guests, they entered in the college where they will be visiting her. Issei and Leanna looked at the woman, and Issei called her out. Mary Nee. The woman identified as Mary was described to be a brown-haired woman with brown eyes. She wore a purple sweater and a green necklace with a star. She had a white skirt. This was Mary, or formerly Mary Haidu. Mary turned around and saw someone she would be surprised to see. There was only one person who still called her that. She recognized Issei, except she noticed he was much paler and had gray eyes. Regardless, she was happy to see him as she looked at him waving. She then exclaimed. Issei. Mary was happy to see him, but she noticed a blonde woman next to him. She sensed for her magic presence and was surprised to see an elf beside him. She wondered what is an elf doing with her brother and what is his relation with her. The duo ran towards Mary as Issei embraced his older sister, the only person he could call family in the Haidu clan. Mary returned the embrace of her younger brother. She did not consider Dia Ray her siblings, since her family had mistreated her as well. In this reality, Mary, like Issei, wasn't blessed with high magic reserves from birth, or was skilled in any weapon or had a sacred gear that they could find, and as a result was also treated similar to how her brother was treated. The truth, Mary was a late bloomer, and unlike Issei, she had gained access to her reserves earlier than Issei did. But if there is one difference between the two siblings is that Mary is known to be bitter in nature, almost spiteful towards those that mistreat her. Issei didn't become bitter until Dia ruined his life, and the others started to abuse him, implying that Issei had a higher tolerance level, as opposed to Mary. When the time came, she secretly cut all ties with her family except Issei, and decided to live a normal life far away from her so-called clan that she belonged to. They didn't talk for at least a few years until today. So brother, what brings you here? And who is this girl with you? Mary looked at Leanna with doubt in her eyes, as Issei spoke. I wanted to have a chat with you, and this is Leanna, she is actually an elf in the guise of a human. Leanna spoke with a bow with a tone of slight respect. It is nice to meet you, big sister Mary, you must be the person that Issei wanted to meet. Mary returned with a smile. The girl seemed respectful, with Issei being surprised as well. Leanna always seemed to be flirtatious and sometimes even slightly disrespectful to anyone that isn't her guild, her elven friends or Issei. But here, she showed a completely different side of hers, as Issei wondered what other surprises is going to happen today. While Issei was in his thoughts, Mary had spoken. "How about the two of you come in my dorm? I am sharing it with a friend known as Claire Venix." The name caught Issei by surprise, awfully familiar to Issei. He knew on who exactly the person was. He looked at Liana, and the duo had to be careful. He wondered whether she would support the factions or his sister. "Worry not, Issei, I have faith in her. She may be a devil, but she is nothing like her family." Issei could only look at her and nod. Scene change. The trio were inside Mary's dorm. Mary then spoke. "So what happened?" Mary spoke, as she looked at Issei's current appearance, which was a stark contrast to the appearance she was expecting him to have. She then spoke. "And why do you look so sickly? So pale, and what happened to your eye color?" Issei took a deep breath and explained to her everything that had happened. Mary was horrified by the viruses he had designed, especially red light and black light, and was even more surprised when Issei survived the black light infection, making himself even stronger than he was before. "I should have expected Dai to become petty and commit such heinous actions. He is truly the scum of this earth." Mary spoke with absolute disgust for her second younger brother. She had nothing but disdain for him, since even she was a victim of his rude and callous behavior. This costed Issei his own self of sense, turning him into a hybrid. The first of his species, an infected prototype or an evolved dragon god. And it seems my so-called family has not changed even after all these years. I am glad to have distanced myself from them. Do they even mention me? Issei shakes his head and speaks. None, to them you are dead. And Dai has been going after women that belong to other men. Mary could only sigh with sadness. She was annoyed by how far her so-called brother was going to fall. She shook her head and spoke. I am surprised those morons haven't seen what kind of a person Dai is. Truth be told, I was expecting Yasaka to sense deception since she is a yaokai, but I guess the good thing Dai did is show the faction's true face. Makes me wonder if the other gods' false appearance are shown in the stories, and if they are just like Zeus and Odin. Issei shook his head and spoke, understanding what Mary means. That is why BLACKWATCH is formed. It is made to protect humanity from the supernatural that is going after the human race, ending their tyranny against them. Issei spoke with total seriousness. Mary could sense Issei's anger and hatred for the supernatural that is toying with humans and their beliefs. They were right about one thing: the supernatural must no longer toy with the human race. Liana felt awkward being the only one that has been silent ever since Issei and Mary started their conversation. She felt out of place being here, since she was unable to speak much. I see. Anyways, Liana right? Liana was caught off guard as she looked at Mary. Yes. Liana asked Mary, to which she turns to Issei and speaks. Ice, would you please leave us be? I wish to have a chat with this girl. Issei looked at Mary for a moment and shrugged as he spoke. Sure, why not? Issei walked outside the room, leaving Liana and Mary alone. The elven girl was awkward by this. She was alone with her potential sister-in-law. She started to shift nervously as Mary spoke with a serious tone. So shall we begin? Liana? Liana only looked at her and nodded. I want to know, what is your relationship with my brother? Why are you with my brother and what are your intentions with him? Liana took a deep breath and spoke what her feelings for Issei are. When I first met Issei, he had accidentally traversed into the sacred realm of the elven race. We had to keep ourselves hidden such that the factions would never find out about our existence, since many wanted to hunt us down for our magical capabilities. We had captured anyone that does trespass into our territory and immediately released them once we wiped their memory of ever visiting our realm. The reason we did this was out of fear that someone may capture our kind, and with our already dwindling numbers, we are afraid that our kind may go extinct. We also memory wipe humans as well. Mary noted this. She can understand why Liana used to wipe our anyone that has accidentally or intentionally arrived into her realm. However, that didn't explain on why she was with her brother. That doesn't explain me why Issei is with you. Since if what you said was true, he should have arrived alone. Liana shook her head and spoke. I was actually getting to that, big sister Mary. You see, when Issei first arrived, he was able to fight against all of us without any problem. However, his style was done in such a manner, he left all of us unharmed in any manner. He only visited us out of curiosity, and he promised to keep our existence a secret. We didn't trust him at first, but he soon showed his faith by keeping our existence a secret. Only you and another person know of our secret, and even then our sacred realm is still hidden to us, but Issei. Eventually, we started to get along, and in the first time in our lives, a dragon or former human was the one that would restore our faith in humans. We even went outside the human world, aside from scavenging resources and money for our survival. Mary took her account into existence. She knew the person her younger brother Issei is. He knew how to attract people towards him, in a good manner that is. Although, what caught her attention was money for our survival part. Liana noticed this and spoke. Yes, we had to survive by stealing from others just to make ends meet. We couldn't even take jobs or make money in the human world due to the supernatural trying to take our people away for their own benefits and goals. So stealing or robbery was our only job, and with our skills we were able to steal enough for survival, even forming guilds like the Silverleaf Sentinels. Normally Mary would be weary of her. She heard from many supernatural sources that the Silverleaf Sentinels were able to steal millions of cash beforehand. But seeing how much she means to her brother and understanding her intentions and motivations, she was not much weary of her. I am a skilled huntress, meaning I am skilled in CQC and weapon usage as well. Although I can use magic, I prefer not using them, since that would expose myself to my enemies. Allowing them to use enchanted metal can harm me in any manner. That is why I can fight even without using magic. Liana explained herself, as she revealed her 2 shooters on her hands, as she speaks. I am armed even now, just so that no supernatural would get a jump on me. These have standard bullets you would see in a revolver. Not to mention, if I get caught there would be no one to lead the Silverleaf Sentinels, since I am technically their guild leader. Mary listened to everything intently. She realized that deep down Liana is a good person, and is someone that can not only look after her brother, but also look after herself. She is a survivor, always prepared for what comes next. I see. Mary got up and spoke with a smile. I wish you good luck. Liana was surprised as she spoke. What do you mean? I mean, you want to go after my brother's affection, right? I give you my full approval, go and get his feelings. Liana was in a daze, as her cheeks started to flush up. She knew what this meant and she spoke with a determined tone. Yes, I will, big sister Mary. Scene change. Issei was coming from the school canteen. He had purchased a Diet Coke for himself and some snacks for both Mary and Liana. However, just as he reached the dorm, he saw someone that surprised him even more. She is a beautiful blonde-haired young woman with her hair tied in long twintails and blue eyes, as well as a voluptuous figure. She is seen dressed in the female school uniform. This was Claire Venix, or her true name Claire Phoenix. The two stared at each other for a minute as Claire started to run away and top speed away from him. Issei was surprised as he shouted, "Hey, wait up." Claire kept on running. Normally she would have teleported back to her place out of fear, but she couldn't reveal the supernatural to the human world. She was however afraid of Issei from what Mary had told her about him and what the supernatural is planning to do once they find out about him. Naturally she was afraid since Issei would deal with anyone that knows about him. She could hear Issei shouting, "Hey, stop running." Scene change. Mary and Liana were talking about the latest situation, as she also came to know about what was happening around in the supernatural. She was really starting to hate them and was planning to warn Claire if the factions do force her to get wed to Die Haidu. She needed to at least protect her. However, a shout garnered their attention as Liana spoke with a surprised tone. Was that Issei? Mary widened her eyes and spoke. "We need to get to them fast." But Liana was about to stop Mary from going after Issei, however she spoke. "I will be fine, don't forget I am a fighter too." Mary revealed something that made Liana surprised and stunned. The elf nods in response as the duo head out to see why Issei had shouted. Scene change. Issei was using his enhanced speed to catch up to her, using increased footing and leaps to reach to where she was. He had run in with several college students who were stunned by how fast they are. It almost felt like 2 breezes struck them. Claire slid down a nearby college poster that was being lifted some feet above it. Issei used his enhanced speed and leaped over the poster, causing it to almost tear off. The students holding the poster were annoyed as one of them shouted, "Hey, watch it. You would have torn off the poster, asshole." Issei turned his gaze and shouted his apologies. "Sorry." Issei looked forward to see Claire still running as he shouted, "Why the hell are you running?" Issei wondered on why is she running away from him. He made sure to keep himself hidden, but he didn't harm anyone openly, at least not yet. He looked at Claire, who did not respond. He soon realized that Mary must have told her about him, but even then that doesn't warrant the excuse of her being this afraid, since he expected her to hurl insults. For her to be afraid is not something he expected. Unless… shit. Issei sped up even more as he asked Drake mentally. "Drake, speed my legs up. I need to stop her from informing the factions. Otherwise everything will end right away." Drake nodded in agreement as the boosted gear announced. Boost. 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 Transfer. Issei boosted thrice and transferred the speed to his legs, which increased his speed substantially. Claire could see this and had to act quickly. She then thought, "I need to get away from him quickly. He is here to take revenge against me for what my family did to him. I need to find a way back home." Claire took a turn, not realizing this would be a dead end. She kept on running away from him out of fear as she could sense him catching up to him. She eventually reached the dead end as she muttered with horror, "Oh no. Issei eventually corners her, terrifying the pure-blooded devil. She turned around with terror in her eyes as she was shivering. Issei then asked with a serious and cold tone. Tell me, were you going to contact the factions about my presence or not? I could have killed you right then and there, but you mean something to my sister, that is why I am sparing your life, Phoenix. But if you don't tell me the truth. Issei activated the boosted gear as he spoke. I will deal with you swiftly and justly, you will regret ever existing. Claire fell to her knees upon hearing this. She crawled back in fear and regret, remembering on how the Phoenix family had mistreated him, even if she was not the one. Please spare me. I promise you, I won't tell anyone anything. Your secret will be safe with me, please just don't hurt me for what my family did to you. I am sorry. I am sorry. Claire exclaimed with fear and was crying endlessly. Issei was surprised by how she had acted. This was not something he had expected to happen. He lost a bit of his anger, but was still on guard. He needed to be careful on what is going to happen next. Soon enough, Mary and Leanna come to the location. Seeing Claire's state, she demanded an explanation from her brother. Issei, what the hell happened? She ran away from me, and I only cornered her and asked her intentions. I was expecting her to contact her family and inform them about my location and try to reveal her intentions, but she started begging for her life and apologize for what her family had done to me. Mary could only sigh upon this. She had a feeling that this was one of the outcomes that would have happened. Walking towards Claire, she helped her up, who hid behind Mary as she spoke. Mary, please don't. Claire was cut off by Mary, who spoke. Nothing is going to happen. Mary turned to Claire with a glare and spoke. We will discuss this in my dorm, not here. Claire nodded as Mary looked at her best friend with sadness. She knew how much her family's actions towards her little brother had affected their bond, with Claire blaming herself for what their family did to Issei, and she always feared that Issei may come and meet Mary, thus having an encounter with her. He would come after her, for revenge. Scene change. The group was in Mary and Claire's dorm. Mary was calming Claire down as she spoke. It's alright, Issei won't harm you in any manner. Mary glanced towards Issei and spoke with a sweet smile. Right. Issei gulped and became nervous. He soon turned away and spoke. Why yes. Good. Mary spoke with a deep breath and spoke. Now Claire, you know what had happened to Issei, right? I would advise you right here and now, there is nothing that is going to save your family from Issei. They are unrepentant and unregretful of what they did to Issei. Claire looked at Mary and nodded with sadness as she looked at Issei and spoke. Sekurute-sama. Just call me Issei, I am not someone for titles. Claire nodded in response again as she spoke. Issei, please can you let me know on what exactly my family did to you? I want to really know, since I have a feeling that I might get a biased view of what happened. Issei looked at Mary, who nodded. She had faith in Claire and believed that Issei should also believe in her. Issei then spoke. Are you sure? Let's just say it is not pretty, especially on what Riser and Ravel did to me. Claire shook her head and responded. No, I want to know now, I want to know on what those two did to you. Issei looked at her and nodded. His hands changed into small tendrils as Claire was surprised before she spoke. What is this? Tendrils, this will connect mine to your memory. Claire noticed the tendrils and remembered about Alexander J. Mercer, since his crimes were made public in the supernatural world, and the fact that he is going to connect to her brain, which seemingly allowed him to mind control others, which made her even more fearful. Seeing this, Issei spoke. Yes, I am what you think. I am Dr. Alexander J. Mercer, the same person that has been raiding the supernatural companies and killed Barakiel and his angels. Issei spoke with total seriousness as his gray eyes changed to red as it glowed in the room. This Claire, as she looked towards Mary for answers, who nodded and spoke. Yes, I knew, but only today, just a few minutes before. Claire nodded in response as she looked towards Issei in fear. He then spoke. I can sense your fear. Issei closed the gap on Claire, who closed her eyes in fear. But only a hand was placed on her, which caught her off guard as he spoke. I promised my sister to not harm you, you mean a lot to her, and that is why you will be alive and well. You can be assured on that. Claire looked towards Mary, who nodded in response as she spoke with a worried smile. Fine, I trust you. Claire closed her eyes and Issei placed the tendrils that started to move towards her. He then spoke. Here goes. Right. Issei inserted his memories of what exactly the Phoenix family did to him as Claire started to have tears forming in her eyes. She knew it was bad but didn't expect it was this worse. She now understood on why Issei hated the family so badly. Once this was done, Issei removed the tendrils as her Phoenix regeneration healed her up completely. I can't believe they would do this. You didn't bother or harm anyone. And they did all this to you. Issei sighed in response and spoke. Yeah, all of them were manipulated by Dai's lies. I wanted a quiet and peaceful life, but I never got it. I still protected them and saved the world from the beast. Eventually I was captured, tortured and was almost killed, but I tricked them and fooled them for now, that is. Claire could only sniffle and nod in response. She realized just how bad things are for them. Mary then spoke. So you see, Claire, just how badly your family is responsible for this. Once Dai's truth is exposed, they are going to annoy and beg Issei even more for their support, not letting him live in peace. That is not even mentioning on how many supernatural beings have gotten away with tormenting human beings for their own selfish desires. I am glad you weren't one of them, otherwise you would have met the same fate as your siblings. Claire looked at her with tears in her eyes, as Mary could only give a sad smile. She was the only phoenix that didn't hold any animosity between them. Mary embraced Claire as the girl cried on her best friend's chest. Issei and Liana didn't say anything and watched the scene. Issei never met Claire before for an unknown reason and only had heard of her from Mary about her today. Her name sounded awfully familiar and that's it. Only later did he sense she was a devil, but unlike many that would have reported him, she only wanted to run away out of fear of what he will do to her. After a few moments, Claire was about to speak, but suddenly the dimensions were getting altered. Issei was surprised at this and returned his hands back to normal. What's going on? Mary exclaimed as Claire herself was surprised. Liana looked at Issei and spoke. Issei? Issei nodded and spoke. Some nearby devils sensed my boosted gear and have isolated us from the school. Issei looked around to see scores of devils waiting for them outside. Liana then spoke. So what should we do? I am ready for a fight. Issei nodded in response as he looked at Claire and spoke. What you do here is your choice. You can either stay here or fight for what is right. Our enemy is the supernatural, which is your species, choose well. Claire Phoenix. Issei looked at Mary, who nodded. She removed a powerful scythe from a magic circle. Wait, that is. Mary twirled her scythe as it released dark magic and gave an aura of death. She then spoke. My sacred gear, the death scythe. It allows me to siphon the life energy of my enemies and use it to increase my own. Issei was himself surprised. He had never seen or heard of a sacred gear like that. Mary looked at their dazed expression, minus Claire who knew about her sacred gear. Mary then explained. I will explain. Are you familiar with Malthal? Issei became wide-eyed as he spoke. The angel of death that is known to drain the very life energy of his enemies. Who can simply drive individuals to death. Mary nodded and spoke. Yes, the scythe contains his power. It allows me to drain their life energy and can even pull out souls and contain them inside this gear. The gear's unique trait is that it can destroy any soul that is pulled inside of the gear. An instant death sentence if I do pull the souls of my enemies, which I did to a certain fallen angel. Mary spoke while turning her gaze away. Issei wondered who this fallen angel was, but before he could ask, Claire changed the topic, garnering his attention. I remember Malthal dying in the Great War that happened centuries ago. I theorize that it must have been one of the newer Longinus that was formed in the wake of the Trahexa sealing. Issei nodded in understanding, remembering that many Longinus were formed after the event of Trahexa, with some older gears evolving into Longinus due to the event. Eyes. The trio looked at Liana, who spoke. We should probably save the sacred gear discussion for later and handle the devils waiting for us outside. The trio looked at her and nodded as they immediately decided to head out. Scene change. Outside the school, UC Berkeley University, 3 p.m. Issei, Liana, Mary and Claire all looked at the swarms of devils that are flying over them. The devil commander then announced. You must be the Secretary. Guess you got your sacred gear back. Hi to Issei, even then you cannot take on the force of 100 devils. The devil commander announced with arrogance in his voice, as Issei couldn't help but shake his head. These idiots don't even know what they are fighting against. Issei then spoke. You fools are even more stupider than I expected. You really think that I cannot take on this measly force of 100 devils? How strong are most of you? Low class, mid class. I doubt that I can sense you yourself are at ultimate class, since your power is beyond pathetic. You are only being brave amidst your army of dummies, who you will probably use to ambush me. Issei spoke with total mockery as the devils were gritting their teeth in anger. The commander was the angriest. Some of the devils were wanting to put him in his place, as the commander shouted. Let him make sure it is painful. The devils were ready to fire their magic blasts towards him, as Issei only threw a device and spoke. Activate. The device generated an electrical barrier field surrounding the battlefield. He smirked, knowing the first plan worked, as he saw several magic circles almost akin to a light show in the sky. The commander then shouted. Fire. The commander fired the circles, as Issei only stood there. The commander and the devils were overconfident by the fact that they would win against Issei, unaware that he raised his hand. They even failed to notice Claire Phoenix in the crowd. A plethora of explosions had taken place, causing a massive dust storm where the four were present. However, when the dust settled, a barrier was present where Issei was, as the barrier was let down, revealing Issei and the others unharmed. Claire was angry that they attacked him, but Mary stopped her. She assured her that her brother has got it. Is that all? Pathetic. Issei spoke mockingly as the devil commander shouted. How is this possible? How can you survive all of that? Are you an idiot? Did you not see me raise my hand? Or is your arrogance getting to your brain? The devils were getting really annoyed by this, with them wanting to torment him as much as possible. However, Issei only looked at them apathetically, with him speaking. You played your turn, now it is mine. Suddenly from Issei's back 10 fallen angel wings sprouted as he used them to fly in the air. Lightning started to crackle from his hands, which made the devils cringe. Mary and Claire were surprised by this, as Liana spoke. Yep, that's what a prototyper evolved is capable of. That means, the powers he is using once belonged to the Seraph Brachial. Mary asked, to which Liana responded. Yes, once he absorbs an entity or consumes them, he can not only take in the physical characteristics and memories of a person, but he can also copy and use their magical abilities to its full potential. Liana explains to them, as Claire spoke. No wonder I feel cringe when the holy lightning is being used. It is almost like the actual thing. Liana nodded in response and spoke. Cause it is the actual holy lightning, the ability used by the former Seraph, and you will be seeing its full power right now. Liana explained to Claire, who nodded. She wondered on if Issei can absorb abilities exclusive to a house like Phoenix or Gremory. The devils were on the edge, as the commander realized on who exactly Issei was and exclaimed. Everyone retreat. The commander and the others used magic circles to escape, but suddenly they were jolted with immense voltage, as they screamed in pain. They looked in horror as Issei spoke. While you morons were thinking on how you wished to torture and torment me, I activated a small device which prevents teleportation for anyone below ultimate class beings. It still needs some work on. But since you were so nice to come and meet me and attack my friends, I should also return the favor, now shall I? Issei started to unleash a barrage of holy lightning spears, and spoke. My real name is Dr. Issei Mercer, the name Alexander J. Mercer is just a disguise, and you fucked with the wrong prototype. Issei declared as he commanded the lightning spears to massacre the army of 100 devils that the commander had brought with him. The devils could only watch with terror and fear as they scrambled to escape, with many of them screaming in fear. No, please have mercy. We will never mess with you or your family again. Please forgive us. Issei could only watch with a satisfied grin at seeing the massacre, watching the devils get electrocuted with holy lightning, which was their biggest weakness. They screamed in pain and cried for mercy, but Issei was not going to lend them any mercy. He enjoyed seeing the arrogant devils suffer for looking down on humans. Seeing this, the commander backed away with fear. He started to flee using his devil wings, but before he could, Ebola appeared which tied up his wings, causing him to plummet to the ground. He fell with a thud, as Issei turned around and saw the attacker to be Liana, who had released her elven ears, showing the others her heritage without any fear. Now I wouldn't let you have all the fun, would I? Liana spoke with a smirk, as the devil tried to crawl. She then brought out her hand forward and fired 2 bullets which was dipped into holy water and fired at the devil's legs, causing him to scream in pain. Ah! The wound sizzled as the devil commander cried in pain. Issei landed down and responded. Yes, that's it. Liana and the others soon walked beside him, as Issei spoke with a tone of surprise. When did you load holy bullets in your wrist guns or shooters like you call it? Liana reloaded another bullet and responded with a smile. I told you, I am always prepared and ready for a fight. I had prepared myself while you were speaking about sacred gears. Issei and the girls nodded, as Mary spoke with a cheerful tone. I like her. Issei smiled in response, knowing he could trust the elf, as he soon turned to the crying commander, as he spoke. So guess your time is up, huh? The devil commander could only look at him in fear. Mary soon walked forward and spoke. Issei, may I be the one to kill this fucker? You sure? Mary nodded, as she brought out her scythe ready to kill him, but before speaking. Before I kill you, let me tell you on who you idiots would have killed if you harmed Issei in any manner. Does the person next to me look familiar? The devil commander looked at Claire, whom Mary had pointed to, and had a look of fear, as Claire had finally spoken. You have some nerve of attacking my best friend. Issei is right about the devils now. And let me tell you, you will all fall once this is all over. I am done supporting you all. Claire turned her back on the devil commander, as she spoke. Mary, do me a favor and kill him. With pleasure. Mary raised her scythe and pulled out his soul with one slash as his soul was being shown. The scythe soon absorbs the screaming soul, which enters into the lower end of the longinus. Good riddance. Mary spoke with disgust, as the devil's eyes had no pupils, and all that remained was his body. Claire soon unleashed phoenix flames and burned the corpse to ash. Let's head back, we are done here. Mary spoke, as they all left the place with the bounding field returning back to normal. They soon headed inside the dorm to rest for a while. Scene change. Time skip brought by Chibi Issei managing to find a way to create infinite Diet Coke. UC Berkeley University, 10 p.m. Issei and Mary embraced each other as they soon split up with Mary speaking. Take care of yourself and don't charge in reckless into your plans for the supernatural. Issei nodded and spoke. You too, Mary. And take care of yourself, Claire. You know your family will come for you soon, right? Once the chaos really begins. Claire nodded in response and spoke. Yeah, I am aware. I do expect my mother to show up and clean the mess with her clan. I can wait to tell them that I am no longer going to solve their problems. Claire spoke with absolute anger and disdain for her family, no longer intending to work for them. Issei soon spoke in response. I should probably take my leave. It is kind of getting late. And you have college tomorrow. Mary nodded in understanding as both Liana and Issei waved goodbye to Claire and Mary, who did the same. The duo soon left as Mary and Claire watched them leave for their home. Mary then spoke. It was nice meeting Ice after so long. Claire looked at her best friend and responded. You haven't talked to him for years, right? Mary nodded and responded. The clan's bullshit was something I didn't want to deal with. I didn't want them to know about my current location. They would certainly annoy me to no end with their rants and questions. Claire shrugged in response and spoke. Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore. You did mention how much of a pain the hiatus were to both you and Issei. Mary nodded, remembering her past. She was waiting for the day when everything would crumble in their faces, especially wanting Dai and Ray to suffer for their actions. Let's head inside. I have a feeling that we may meet again. Claire nodded as the duo headed to sleep so that they can wake up for their classes, which is tomorrow. Scene change. Issei's house, California beaches, US, 11 p.m. Issei said his goodbyes to Liana, who returned back to her dimension. He decided to contact Valerie since he wanted to know on why he was not informed about the current state of the factions. Valerie, who had a look of complete lack of emotion, as he asked. Valerie, didn't I ask you to keep an eye on the factions? Why didn't you reveal Hades is getting kidnapped? I didn't know. Valerie spoke with regret for her action. Issei could only groan in frustration as he spoke. Well, what's done is done. If you want to do something worthwhile, tell me about the defenses that I will encounter. If you do well, then I will give you the liquid that you desire. Valerie's eyes widened in surprise as she nodded and spoke. I will try my best. Valerie was teleported away to her territory as Issei looked at the skies. He vowed to make Zeus pay for what he had done to his adoptive father and what his sons had done to his adoptive sisters. You will weep soon, Zeus, and I am going to enjoy listening to your cries. Issei's eyes glow a dark red as he would show on what happens when you mess with his friends and family. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching and supporting us. See you in the next part.